Horroshow's latest record, Bato State, is a surreal exploration of being in between identities, life, death, and what it means to actually tell a story. And it's the duo's first real late-night record, and it shows. Solo and Adit bring their unique talents to a new sound, and the album feels like a dramatic shift for the duo. They're moving towards something new. Where King Amongst Many dealt with the Australian identity and the relationship between history and the present, Bato State looks in a different direction. The second track on the album, Astray, is the most immediate song we've ever heard from Solo. It's 456 words and 40 lines. It can be separated into two basic sections, an evening on the dance floor and, presumably, the long journey home in the dark. Adit's production gives the track a faraway feeling, and Solo's lines float in and out of focus. The contrast between the softer sections and the harder rhythms makes certain lines feel close, and it's the start of a sexier sound for the boys. It's something that I think we could get more used to.
Can you hear the sirens off in the distance? Hoping they don't come my way. While I'm trying to maintain, keep up resistance. I can feel them hiding off in the shadows. Hear them whispering my name.
The song opens with Solo alluding to walking home at night. The mention of sirens, shadows, and whispers all imply it's the small part of the evening, just before morning, and just after the evening has stopped.
But I'm trying to maintain on the straight and narrow. She's trying to explain all the things she might do. Only just let her. She keeps talking about love. Only just let her. Trying to be a man of my word.
Solo reflects on she, the subject of the past timeline, the girl on the dance floor.
I'd swear that you were trying to break me, make me learn the error of my ways.
The pre-chorus takes us back to the dance floor and the hazy intimacy of the evening.
My ways is lost in the beat as we sway. She leans into me and says, don't be a stranger. And I could be so easily persuaded, so please don't you lead me astray.
Solo describes the room as being lost in the beat. This references the earlier line, trying to maintain on the straight and narrow, where maintaining the straight and narrow is a literal opposition to the definition of being led astray. In this context, the idea is that Solo is immersed in the crowd who are lost, so knowing which direction is the right direction is basically impossible. The following three lines introduce the sexier side of Horrorshow that we haven't seen since Inside Story. The girl tempts Solo, and whether she's an allegory for the rap game, or for addiction, or for something else entirely, this setup is what makes the song so enticing. It's also a potential inversion of the usual use of astray. In a society dominated by the assumption that men are in control, it's often expressed that men lead young girls astray, so this could be Solo touching on some politics with a small p, implying that, in this case, it's a woman who's leading him astray. Regardless, the girl's dialogue tells us she knows what she's doing. The seduction is no accident. But perhaps more importantly, Solo isn't resisting the process. Please don't you lead me astray lets us know that he's already ready to give up control, and he'll need to trust whoever this presence is. The chorus follows immediately and is more of a reflection of the emotion of the evening, rather than part of either timeline.
Cause I've been up so high, free falling. I feel that we'll be kings by morning. And in the quiet I can hear them calling. I feel that we'll be kings by morning.
Solo talks on being up so high and then free-falling. Again, free-falling lacks control, the very same control he was prepared to give up on the dance floor. The center of the chorus, and a line that's repeated 6 times in the song, is probably a reference to the previous album, King Amongst Many, and the first indication that the girl may represent hip-hop or, in some way, their music career. The idea is one that's laden throughout Horrorshow's work. If you focus too much on reaching the top, whatever victory you do find will come at a cost. The second verse can be split into 3 parts, the first 4 lines, the middle 4 lines, and the last 4 lines. The first 4 lines offer us context of Solo walking home, and colour in some details from the night, and how we're supposed to feel about them.
In the eerie silence while the city's sleeping, I replay it in my brain. All the strangers and exchanges of the evening.
Strangers and exchanges implies both a lot of interaction and very little connection, which may be an allusion to a live performance, something that the middle 4 lines then addresses.
But I've been running my mouth, running around town, running amok, running random. I've been forming habits, throwing caution to the wind, reckless abandon. I've been talking candid to these strangers, man, but they can't understand it.
The middle 4 lines offer us an insight into the rap game and the kind of senseless drive required to succeed in a lot of industries. The repetition of running and the brevity of the lines creates velocity, and then the final line of the middle 4 lines takes us back to the dance floor.
That I'm dropping off the face of the planet. Shit, this ain't how I planned it.
Again, we get the impression Solo hadn't imagined this evening or life would be so chaotic, and he's dragged back on the dance floor.
What you grabbing my hand for? Trying to drag me out on that dance floor. Something tell me that you a handful, and I ain't the one to make demands on. But all of this going around and around in my head, whether I'm here or I'm there, looking around me at everyone else, and I'm wondering what is it going around there.
When he arrives, he draws the lens onto those around him. I'm wondering what it is running around theirs. As he's preparing to give control over to the girl, he starts to ask whether the others on the dance floor are thinking, and if they have the same struggle, or if they've just given in willingly. It's trademark self-awareness from Solo, and it prepares us for the turning point of the poem. The second and final pre-chorus brings together the 2 rhyme schemes, the 2 timelines, and gives us the turn we need to understand why this song is different from every other track about being seduced by women or fame.
The whole room is lost in the beat as we sway. She leans into me and says, don't be afraid. The look in her eyes saying I should obey. Surrounded by all of the downfall and prey, 'cause the whole room is lost in the beat as we sway.
We trade in the second line of the pre-chorus for a much more direct, close expression of affection. Don't be afraid, the girl whispers. This draws on imagery of sex and the process of seduction. Further by the next 2 lines, the couple obey and pray to show us the almost predatory nature of this seduction. It's also worth noting the use of downfallen to describe the other dancers is a reference to the free-falling described in the chorus. They've already fell, which means they've given in control. We feel Solo start to give in, and the velocity created in the previous verse slows as the beat grows closer.
It's so hard to leave and so easy to stay. Then it hits me, and I hate to be so cliche. It's me who's gonna lead me astray.
The poem turns as Solo has his revelation. The very thing that meant he was walking home in the first place and not trapped with the rest of the prey, or still on the dance floor. The realization that while the girl is doing the seducing, it's up to Solo to relinquish control is one that I think we've all had at some point. The 2 rhyme patterns, the internal me, we, and the external way, sway, astray, come together in this line to show us that both in the moment and in the quiet night after, Solo's realization is ongoing. And as he walks home and hears the voices whispering, tempting him back, we start to understand that the temptation may never really be over. It's part of his life. The whole album, Bato State, is about realizing that life is one big transition, full of smaller half-states, and that no matter what, the only thing you can control is your actions. Astray paints a vivid picture that's layered with subtlety and emotion. It feels very real. Next time you're heading home at 2 a.m. when everything's quiet, throw on the record. Because who knows? You might just have a revelation.
You know, the thing about hip hop today is it's smart. I mean, you know, it's insightful. You know, and they, you know, the way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space. That, you know, hip hop is not just a mirror of what is. It should also be a reflection of what can be.